Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's Foundation Friday for over 50s, we're going to be taking a look at a new foundation from Bobbi Brown. It's the Skin Long Wear Weightless Foundation. This retails for $46 for 1 ounce and comes in 30 shades. This is supposed to be a 16-hour wear, full coverage, matte finish foundation that's comfortable, breathable, and weightless. It's good for normal to oily skin. It's free of parabens, sulfates, phthalates, and SD alcohol. It's also vegan friendly and gluten free. This comes in a heavyweight frosted glass bottle, and it also has a pump dispenser. This foundation is a water and silicone base, and it also contains marine sugar extracts and mineral powders to control oil and shine. It also contains glycerin and shea butter for hydration. It has an SPF 15 from titanium dioxide and octinoxate. It does contain fragrance. With 30 shades in the range, it's fairly inclusive. I'm wearing the shade 3.5, which is warm beige. I first picked it up in a sample in 2.25, and the first day I wore it, I knew it was too light, so I put on a ton of bronzer and stuff over the top. So you'll see that in the first 2 days the color isn't quite right, but that's okay. It doesn't change the wear test because we're looking to see if this does give us 16 hours of wear, if it's comfortable, if it's full coverage, and if it's a nice oil controlling matte finish. So for the first day of testing, I use my normal sunscreen, which is Australian Gold SPF 50 mixed with hydropeptide SPF 50. I don't use primer. I use my fingers to apply it, and I didn't use any setting powder. Applying this with the fingers, I really didn't like it right away. It feels really stiff and sticky. It's hard to blend, and it goes on fairly thick and feels heavy and sticky on the face. I switched to a flat top kabuki brush on the other side, which wasn't great either. It tended to drag with the kabuki brush and didn't really give very even coverage, but stippling seemed to work a lot better. It is not full coverage. It's definitely like a medium to sheer. It needs concealer. You can still see spots and things through it, even though it did feel heavy and thick. It just wasn't giving the coverage that it promised. The color obviously is too light, but it was pretty good on the pores. It didn't give me polka dot pores. I really like the finish. It's very nice and skin-like looking finish. It settled right into fine wrinkles on my forehead. It feels damp and tacky, and it doesn't dry back for a long time. So at the 5-hour check-in, it was still mainly in place, but it was getting cracked and a little bit patchy by the side of my mouth. It had settled into more wrinkles, and it looked like makeup up close. And again, it doesn't really dry back, and so it transfers onto your clothes, onto your hands, it's under your nails. So at the 10-hour check-in, it was still mainly in place, but it was patchy underneath my nose, on my chin. A lot of my redness was showing through. It was kind of patchy and splotchy looking. It felt heavy and not fully set all day, so up close, it wasn't looking great. It wasn't feeling great to wear. So for day 2, I switched up the sunscreen and used a lighter weight mineral sunscreen, Murad Environmental Shield City Skin Age Defense SPF 50. On one side, I didn't use any primer and used a sponge to apply it. On the other side, I added Smashbox Photo Finish Light Primer, and I used Real Techniques paddle brush to apply the foundation. On the brush side, it seemed to go on fairly sheer, so I did add some more to build up the coverage on my chin and cheeks to cover my redness, and I set the T-zone. It went on much better using the sponge and the brush. The lighter sunscreen seemed to help the foundation glide on better and not be so tacky and sticky, and I liked how it looked and felt that day. It felt more lightweight and less tacky. Okay, there's the rest of my makeup. I actually like how this looks and feels today. I hated how it felt the other day because I didn't feel like it ever dried or set. It's not so tacky today. I don't know what the difference is. It still isn't quite 100% set. I still, feel it being a little tacky, but it's not bugging me as much. I did set my T-zone, of course, under my eyes, right here in my nasolabial folds, and a little bit here and here. I feel like the primer is definitely smoothing this side a little bit. The Smashbox side is a little bit smoother than the non-primered side. I came back to check in on it at 5 hours and it hadn't seemed to oxidize. It was still very pale, so this foundation doesn't really oxidize. It stays true to the color that you put it on. It wasn't cracking or breaking up on the surface like it had the day before, so the lighter weight sunscreen was definitely helping it to sit better on my skin. The primer side was definitely wearing better than the non-primer side, where it had thinned out and was sliding around at the side of my nose and around my chin. But on the primer side, it had settled into some fine lines and wrinkles, so that was kind of a bummer. I came back at 11 hours. It looked just okay. My nose and chin were pretty red though, but for most of my face it was still in place, but it did still feel a little bit tacky and coming off on clothes and fingers. Yeah, it's definitely kind of a mess by the side of my nose here. My chin, very greasy looking and faded. And this side of my face looks actually okay, except for the side of my nose if we just ignore this. But then there's that. So I zipped over to Sephora this morning to get the correct shade. The sunscreen I used today was the Anessa Perfect UV sunscreen. For the primer, I used Catrice Prime and Fine. I applied it with a sponge because I like how it goes on with a sponge the best. I ended up using 5 pumps to get full coverage. And I did set my entire face today so that it would keep it from moving around. And actually right now, it actually feels set and like it's not sliding around. Since it's 3 o'clock, I better get my butt outside now because, you know, the days are so short here. So let me go do the outdoor test and the kitchen test, then we'll come back and we'll do the phone and all the other stuff, okay? Be right back. You ready? Nice catch. All right, and here's the kitchen light. All right, I don't think it looks, you know, 100% natural in these super bright outdoor light, but we have to remember that I did put a lot of setting powder on it. It does look a little heavy. I wouldn't go as far as cakey because I do think it reflects light nicely. You know, it's definitely kind of a mixed bag foundation, so let's go ahead and finish this off by doing the flash photo. Wow, it's like a filter. That is so cool. It looks really, really nice, really smooth. My skin looks really smooth and everything. I love it. If I'm ever going anywhere where I'm getting my picture taken, I am wearing this. Could be a great mother of the bride thing, except that you'll be getting it all over everybody. All right, so let's go over the pros and cons on this one. On the pros side, it has a really, really pretty demi-matte finish. I think the finish on this is what I like the best about it. It was long wearing-ish. I don't feel like I would get 16 hours out of it. I probably could get 10 good looking hours out of it, which is pretty good, as long as you can figure out how to get it to stick to your nose and your forehead and your chin, like the more oily parts. So that's why I'm on the fence about the oil controlling. It is sheer to medium coverage, which I'm putting in the pros column because I like a sheer to medium coverage, but it could be in the cons for some of you who like full coverage and we're expecting full coverage out of it, because while you can build it to full coverage, it's not really its best at full coverage. It is buildable though. It doesn't settle into pores. It has a good shade range and it doesn't contain SD alcohol. So on the con side are that it's not full coverage if you're looking for full coverage, that it stays kind of tacky all day and you really need to powder it down to get it to set and not be like sliding around. The combination of the powder and the foundation when put on heavier can look a little cakey and a little obvious, kind of foundation-y. It does settle into wrinkles a little bit, but it definitely needs a primer. It definitely needs setting powder, so you do have to throw other things at it. It's not as long wearing as the claims, and it does contain fragrance. All right, so I think that will do it for today's Foundation Friday. I'll check back if there's anything new to report, but otherwise I feel pretty solid on this one, that it's like kind of a mixed bag. You know, it's not, certainly not a bad foundation. It's not a holy grail foundation. For me, it could be for you, you know, you never know. It lived up to some of its claims. It didn't live up to some of its other claims. But I feel like overall, as you know, as far as the mixed bag, it's more on the positive side of the fence than on the negative side of the fence. So I think it's definitely worth a try. I feel like, you know, sample it first because it is expensive. So if you want to see see where that sits on the list of all the foundations I've ever tried that are ranked in order from best to worst. You can find that over on my blog. I'll put the link to that in the information box below the video. You can also check there for links to everything else in the video, my lipstick today, whatever makeup I wore in the other days, my top 5 foundations, all kinds of good stuff always in the info box. So take a peek in there. I hope you found the video helpful and informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate your time, and so I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.